Welcome to the Lolley Steelers podcast. I'm Dale Lolley here. Chris Carter is off this week. He's off doing a little traveling. And, the Steelers did a little traveling this week as well on a short week. Went to Minnesota and lost a hard-fought, well, at least for a half, 36-28 game to the Minnesota Vikings. Steelers falling behind 29-0 in that game before battling back and scoring 28 of the last 36 points in that game, and making a game of it. Of course, the game ending on the Ben Roethlisberger to Pat Freiermuth pass in the end zone. A lot to talk about with this game. Once again, the Steelers got gashed on the ground. Dalvin Cook just tore them up. The Vikings really took a page out of what the Cincinnati Bengals did to the Steelers. Came out with a sixth offensive lineman about 25% of the time. And then, of course, they also play a fullback, and he played about 50% of the time. So they went really big against the Steelers. And quite frankly, the Steelers didn't have much of an answer for that. I've been asked already, is this a talent issue? Is this a coaching issue? Is this, just guys, not doing their jobs? To me right now up front, this is a talent issue, plain and simple. There's an old saying in coaching that, you can't polish, what, all you do is smear it around. And right now the Steelers are playing with a little bit of that stuff that you smear around. Outside of Cam Hayward, there's not much there. You're looking at, a rookie in Isaiah Loudermilk, who was technically supposed to be on scholarship this season. Really wasn't expected to play a whole lot, but the injuries to Stephon Tuitt and Tyson Alualu have kind of forced the Steelers' hand to play these guys a lot. And quite frankly, guys like Isaiah Buggs, Henry Mondu, they're meant to be players who, even Chris Wormley, meant to be players who play, at most 15 snaps a game, and now they're playing 60 snaps a game, and it's caught up to them. Teams have figured out that the way to attack the Steelers is to run the football and run it again. Even if you're in, second and long, go ahead and run the football again, because they're not going to consistently stop you from doing that. And even when the Steelers were good last year against the run, their defense was built to penetrate and get running backs on the ground for losses. Teams have figured out this year that they can continue, even if you get that 1 or 2 yard loss, you can run on the next play and get it right back. And that's what Dalvin Cook continually did last night. He averaged 7.6 yards a carry. The Steelers just had no answer for it. And it was a matter of every time he took the handoff, he's 5 yards down the field before he's even first contacted most of the time. We saw Minkah Fitzpatrick have to make a bunch of tackles in this game from his free safety position, and that is just not a good sign when your free safety has to do those kind of things on the running back. Just not a good spot that the Steelers are in right now. We'll see. Mike Tomlin after the game on Thursday night promised that they will turn over every stone and see if they can make any changes here. I don't know what changes they can make on the defensive line, though. They're playing everybody already. I mean, that's part of the problem right now, is that it's just not good enough and hasn't been good enough really all year long. Stephon Tuitt's not riding back in here on a white horse, nor is Tyson Alualu. What they need to do, conversely, is start faster on offense. This is a team that has really struggled at times to score points in the first half, and right now it's kind of killing them a little bit, because it's putting too much pressure on that defense to continually hold teams at bay. And when you're having trouble stopping the run, if the team can continually run the football, yeah, it's going to happen. You're going to get worn down and get gashed a little bit. The interesting thing is that the Steelers did a much better job in the second half of this game against the run than they did the first. They just had no answer for what the Vikings were doing early in the game, and quite frankly, because the offense wasn't on the field long enough. They had a bunch of 3 and outs. I think they ran 16 offensive plays on their last 5 possessions, or last 5 possessions in the first half. It didn't give them enough time to make any defensive adjustments. You're on the sideline. The offense snaps the ball 3 times, and you're back out again to try and stop what the Vikings were doing. It's just they're not playing good complementary football consistently this year. We've seen it at times. We saw it against the Ravens, where they continually stuck with the running game and did a nice job with Baltimore's defensive front, which shows you a lot of different looks. Well, the Vikings were doing the same thing. They were putting 6 and 7 guys at the line of scrimmage, but they were only rushing 4, and we continually saw the offensive line kind of screw that up and have guys running free to the quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger sacked 5 times in that game. Just way too much. But again, the Steelers get they score 21 points in the final 15 minutes and make a game of that. That's one thing you have to say about this team, is that it just doesn't quit. And that's, to be commended, but start faster. They have to start faster. I wrote on DKPittsburghSports.com. I've written this a couple of times now in recent weeks. I'd like to see the Steelers come out, play fast early. Come out, use the no huddle, use a little pace early in the game to see if you can't, get the other team on its heels. Ben Roethlisberger's been at his best this season when he's been attacking down the field. Now you could say, well, some of that's because of the score of games, but there've been a lot of 1-score games this year where, he's attacked like that and had success because, and you can't say, well, that the defense was in a prevent there. If you're only up 1 score, you're not in a prevent. You're basically playing defense, but he's been at his best this year when they've been able to attack. I'd like to see a little bit more of that moving forward. And, you got 4 games left in this season. They're 6 and 6 right now. The way the AFC sets up, nobody's running away with anything here. It's all right there in front of them. You have games remaining. All four remaining games are conference games. You got Tennessee next week. Then you have Kansas City in Kansas City. Then you get the Browns at home, the Ravens on the road. You've already beaten the Browns and Ravens once. The Steelers have shown that they can beat those teams. Beat the Titans this week, or next week, I should say, and that's a flawed Titans team. Now maybe if you get the 9 wins, see what you can do there. We'll see. I mean, I'm not ready to say this season's over. I am willing to say that they've got some flaws that I don't think can be fixed before the end of the season. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, I'll go through this week's games, and I'll tell you who I like when we come back with the Lolley-Carter podcast right after this. Back to the Lolley-Carter podcast. I'm Dale Lolley. Chris Carter is off on taking a little mini vacation. We'll take a look at this week's games. I'll give you a little inside information on maybe who the Steelers kind of need to win some of these games down the stretch to keep things close. And we're going to start with an AFC North game. I'm sure everybody in Pittsburgh is going to be watching this one. It's the 8-4 Ravens at the 6-6 Browns. These guys just played 2 weeks ago. The Browns were then on a bye, so they're playing back-to-back games against the Ravens. And I'll be honest with you, I think Baltimore's in a tough spot here. They lost Marlon Humphrey in that game last week against the Steelers. He's done for the year. Marcus Peters already out for them. But I'll say this, the one thing that Cleveland doesn't do well is throw the ball to outside the numbers. Baker Mayfield has struggled in that this year. But I do think that the Browns, they're favored by 2.5 points in this game. I kind of like them at home to hold serve here. And if they do that, I think, for Steeler fans, that's probably the outcome that you want to see happen. You want to see the Ravens get that 5th loss. Yes, it would come at the expense of the Browns winning their 7th game and dropping the Steelers into last place. but you play those teams down the stretch. You got a chance to do something about that. You don't want the Ravens getting that 9th win in this game. So we'll see what happens with that. But I like the Browns in that one. We got an NFC East showdown here. It's a big one now with the Cowboys stumbling a little bit here of late. It's the 8-4 Cowboys at 6-6 Washington. Dallas favored by 4 in this game. Washington has been playing well. I still like the Cowboys in this game. I think Taylor Heineke will turn the football over here, and that's what the Dallas defense has thrived on this season. You got the 6-6 Raiders at the 8-4 Chiefs. The Chiefs have won 4 in a row. I think they make it 5 in a row. If you look at what everybody's done to the Chiefs of late, is play a lot of too high zone with the safeties back. The Raiders, for some reason, a couple of weeks ago when they played the Chiefs, decided, we're going to play through our 3-man shell here, and Patrick Mahomes picked that apart. It's really been the only game that he's had that's been great over the last 6 weeks or so. The Chiefs have been winning with defense. I think the Chiefs win this game with defense to get to 9-4 and knock the Raiders down to 6-7. You got the Jaguars at 2-10 at the Tennessee Titans at 8-4. This will be a game that Steeler fans should keep an eye on because the Steelers, of course, play the Titans next week. Tennessee's favored by 8.5 in this game. It's coming off of a bye. We'll see if they get Julio Jones back for this game. Ryan Tannehill has not been playing well. He's thrown 13 interceptions this season, which is tied for the most in the NFL, and that's as many as he had in the previous 2 seasons. Losing Derrick Henry has really hurt this team. Their offense was really centered around him. We'll see what Dontrell Hilliard and Dante Foreman, if they can pick up the pace here a little bit. I do like the Titans to win this game because I think the Jaguars are just in a bad spot. They can't score. They just have no wide receivers. But I do like the Titans in this one. They get to 9-4 coming to Pittsburgh next week. I don't think that the Titans are a very good team, though. They're a 9-4. They're going to be an 8-4 team right now. That's kind of fraudish a little bit. It's kind of an elimination game in the NFC. You got the 5-7 Falcons at the 5-7 Panthers. Carolina favored by 2.5. These two teams played earlier, about 4 games ago, and the Panthers came away with the victory. That was with PJ Walker at quarterback. I think the Panthers defense will be too much in this game, even without Christian McCaffrey. I'll take the Panthers to win that one. Saints 5-7 at Jets 3-9. Nobody wants to watch this game. The Saints favored by 5.5. Taysom Hill's going to start. He has an injured middle finger on his throwing hand. He doesn't throw the ball well to begin with. But I'll take that Saints defense over the Jets. The Jets have been competitive of late, but I like the Saints in that one to get to 6-7. Boy, there's another stinker bowl here. You have the Seahawks at 4-8 at the 2-10 Texans. You could be looking at Davis Mills starting this game. The Seahawks technically still in it in the NFC at 4-8. But they would likely need to win out to get into the playoffs here. I like the Seahawks in this. You always go with Russell Wilson against Davis Mills every day of the week. You got the 4-8 Giants at the 7-5 Chargers. Chargers favored by 10 points in this game. And but they don't have any wide receivers. Both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen on the COVID-19 list, along with cornerback Chris Harris. But Justin Herbert still has Austin Eckler to throw to here. I think the Chargers win this game. Daniel Jones isn't going to play for the Giants. Mike Glennon's banged up. They're going to be on their 3rd-string quarterback. I just don't see the Giants being able to hang with the Chargers at home. You get the 1-10-1 Lions coming off their first victory of the season at the Denver Broncos. And Denver hanging in there at 6-6. I think they get the 7-6 here. They're favored by 10 points. I don't know if they cover that spread because the Lions have been pretty competitive. But I think they do win this game to stay alive in the AFC playoff race, at least for another week. So take the Broncos to win that one. Maybe the game of the week here. You got the 7-5 Bills coming off that loss against the New England Patriots last Monday night against the 9-3 Buccaneers. Tampa Bay only favored by 3.5 at home. So the Bills getting a little bit of respect there. You have to look at this and go, if you're Tampa Bay going, well, the Patriots just ran all over the Bills last week. That's true. But I think the Bills will be able to throw the ball a little bit against the Patriots. I do like the Buccaneers, or against the Buccaneers, I should say. I do like the Buccaneers to win this game. That would knock the Bills all of a sudden down to 7-6, and perhaps maybe looking at a wild card in the AFC themselves. Another big game in the AFC playoff race here. You get the 49ers, who are now 6-6, at the Bengals at 7-5. We'll see what happens with Joe Mixon. He is a little banged up going into this one. It's going to be an interesting game here for the Bengals. They lost at home last week to the Chargers. The 49ers will run the football, and they'll run it a lot. We'll see if Deebo Samuel plays for them. I do kind of like the Bengals in this game to win and get to 8-5. If they win and the Ravens lose, they would all of a sudden now the Bengals would vault into first place in the AFC North. So we'll keep an eye on that. You get the Bears 4-8 at the Packers in the night game. You got to like the Packers there. I'm sorry. Aaron Rodgers, as he is very, very much, he likes to say, owns the Chicago Bears. And then finally, to finish off the weekend, a big game in the NFC, the Rams 8-4 at the 10-2 Cardinals. And boy, this one's going to be an interesting one. Kyler Murray back for the Cardinals. The Cardinals are kind of rolling here. The Rams have kind of been floundering a little bit. They're 8-1 though against the spread against Arizona under Sean McVay, but that only cover came earlier this season in Week 4. I'll take the Cardinals at home in this one. They just seem like maybe a little bit of a team of destiny here. I'd like them to get to 11-2 and knock the Rams down to 8-5. But that's going to do it for the Lolley Steelers podcast. You can follow along. You can like us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to the show. We appreciate that, and let your friends know. Chris should be back next week. We'll talk some more Steelers and what's going on with them. But for now, I'm Dale Lolley. Thank you for listening to this edition of the Lolley Steelers podcast.